It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Paranormal Plus with Grizzly. Tracy has got the night off. Well, hello, everybody. Let's who's here. Crazy Witch, welcome. FDL Paranormal. Hello, Kelly there from Chad Green. Hello. So welcome. How are you doing tonight, Hockett? Seems like you're tied up in the hospital right now.
Yeah, it's not exactly how I wanted to experience and do my first podcast, but I'm put on a smile and get through it.
So introduce yourself to everybody, a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do.
All right, my name is Larcetia Hockett, but most people call me Cree. I have been a paranormal investigator for the last 15 years. I am also a empath. So I can feel and sense other people's emotions and feelings. I've been able to do that since I was about 7. And that's actually when I encountered my first paranormal apparition, was when I was the age of 7. I had seen my great-grandmother and my grandmother's kitchen window. And from there, I just kept looking into it. And it brought me here now to where I'm doing my very first podcast, and I've been able to post a few videos on YouTube. Nothing of me in these famous locations as of yet, but telling the history and the stories and the stuff and all the forgotten souls that's just kind of still there and want to get their story told. So that's what I do. I go to these locations, or I talk about these locations, and I get the story out there so the souls are no longer forgotten.
Right. So how does it feel being in the hospital right now? I mean, do you pick up anything or energies? Yes. Or
it's an overwhelming sensation, and I usually suffer from anxiety headaches, and it's like a lot of pressure. But sometimes when it comes to me paranormal investigating, or even just going into a random place, it targets me with either my head or my chest. And then that's when I know that something's around. And with me being in the hospital right now, like this, it feels like a headache, but it kind of feels like there's an injury behind it. And I don't know if it's because somebody has either broken their neck or had something seriously wrong with their neck, but I am hurting so bad all in the back of my neck right now. And then when people come in, I can feel the energy that's with them if there's somebody with them. So being an empath and being in the hospital is very overwhelming.
Wow. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we had no idea that she was going to be in the hospital tonight. We did not, did we?
No, I was just like, I got to do this. So
yeah, so I popped on in the studio and I was like, okay. She's like, well, we're doing this. We're gonna go, and I may be in the middle of an MRI, but we're doing it. I'm like, well, let's roll. So, hello, FDL Paranormal. Thank you for all your wonderful contributions today, my friend. Yes, love my backdrops and so forth. But yeah, so Charles Rudd, welcome to the show. Crazy Witch, sorry you're in the hospital. So am I. We had a little lengthy discussion. So it's awkward. I hate hospitals. I gotta go back in June for my follow-up, but it's terrible. But I'm glad that you're doing okay. Yeah, so if she does get wheeled out, we are still going to film as she goes down the hallway. Yeah.
You're right. I mean, I don't know if they'll let me take my big old computer, but you know. Then they just came and told me they want you to come do your MRI. And I was like, well, about time I do my podcast. They'll be like, yep, let's go. So, but if I do have to leave all my glorious technology here and have y'all stare at the hospital wall, which it's not all that gorgeous, I will be back.
Right. So well, everybody's wishing you a speedy recovery. So yeah.
If y'all can hold on till I get back, I'll continue with the podcast.
Oh, there are manyest things that we can do to hold on. Absolutely. That's Tracy. Yes, that is Tracy up there. Standing Stones. Hello, how are you doing? Welcome to the show. Yeah, sorry I didn't get back to you. And hello to West Waxhaw for Paranormal team and UK there. I've been dealing with a lot of people in UK today.
I have
So
a friend that lives in
interesting.
the UK. She does a lot of exploration of abandoned buildings.
Yeah, they got a lot of lovely history over there. FDL Paranormal, they crack me up, and but they are a good group of investigators. I can never say enough of good things about them. A little bit crazy, but you know,
Hey,
aren't we all?
People are crazy. All the best people are crazy.
Yes, that is the truth. So we have been spending a lot of time together. I'm surprised his wife has not been getting jealous. But yeah, it seems like every time I call him, he's naked. And I'm like, man, get some clothes on. He's like, how about you up in the shower? I'm like, well, I don't want to see you naked. He's sitting there going, my God, Grizzly, are you seriously doing this to me right now? Yes, I am. So I like to have a ball. West Side Paranormal. We love what we do as a paranormal team. Yes. And so is you. I love you all, Derek, and everybody, and Danielle, and
I really don't have a team, but I love what I do as a paranormal investigator myself until I can get a team.
Yeah, you know, there's never enough people out there. I mean, there is abundance, I should say, of amount of people that always love to team up. But it's the ones that say they want to do it, then they get to do it, then they're like, oh hell no, I'm not. I did not sign up for this. I'm like, well, you watch too much TV.
Technically, you did. You did sign up for it.
Yes.
On the dotted line.
I know, ain't that right, FDL Paranormal? He's like, hi, Standing Stones. So the reason why I read the audio or the comments, because the audio people in the morning, they get to listen to it on the way to work and so forth. Crazy Witch. Hello there, LOL Grizzly. I know you're laughing. We're not in the ditch right now.
Your name, Crazy Witch, because on my YouTube channel, I go by Twisted Witch.
Oh, now we got two witches, one twisted, one crazy. I mean, we get those together, keeps them busy.
The art of witchcraft for a long time.
Oh Lord, here we go. Just get the holy water out, and then the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. There we go. But yes, no. But no, Tracy's not in the hospital. Tracy is at home, playing romance.
Unfortunately,
how
I'm
beautiful. So yeah, but yeah, he's the one. She's the one in the hospital. Yeah. But yes, we got another show coming up tonight at 9 o'clock. It's about live Bigfoot news and Sasquatch and everything that's going on in the world. Bigfoot. So yeah. See, I love Bigfoots. So Brian, we were just talking about you, Brian Wheeland. Hello, everybody from Canada. Welcome aboard.
Hello.
So yes, Standing Stones, he does x-rays. So he actually works in the hospital too. So 20 years. Now I know that he's got some stories. You know, he's got some stories.
There was actually, I was by myself in a room for the longest time last night. And then they didn't bring in somebody to be on the other side of me till earlier this morning. And with what I do, being a witch and then being an empath, and it's just kind of that automatic thing, I catch myself waking up a lot at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is with a witching hour.
Is anybody in the room with you right now?
As of right now, no, but last night.
Oh, I was about to say, well, they're going to be like, ringing that nurse's bell, the nurse's buzzer, like, wait.
Come get me. No, but about early this morning, I had my door open because it got kind of hot in here. And of course, I know there's shadow figures that you can see walking up and down because it's actual people's shadows. But I'm laying here and I noticed that the shadow comes into my room, but there's nobody attached with that shadow. It's not a human.
Oh, hell no. Hell to the no.
You know, I'm a little slow at moving, but I kind of inch down to my bed and I look and there's nobody in there. So I sit there for a few minutes and I'm like, there's something you need to tell me, come on in. But I'm fixing to go do my MRI. So if y'all people can bear with me until I
Yeah,
get back.
we'll be here. We're not going nowhere. I got
right.
my dolls that's going to keep me ladies and gentlemen. One of the dolls actually flew off the studio before I went live, hit me in the forehead and bounced off and landed on my computer. I about crap myself, ladies and gentlemen.
You got to watch them haunted dolls.
You know, to tell me about it. Yeah, I know, right? Hello there, Tony Slater.
But I will be back as soon as I can.
All right. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the tense code I experienced that big time.
All right. Talk about that until I get back. Don't have anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's going to go get her MRI done. So she'll be gone for a few minutes. Well, I feel sorry for him sharing a room with her, talking about witches and shadow people and everything else. And let's see here. There we go. That way we don't see anything that we're not supposed to be seeing. We'll go ahead and block that out real quick. So which doll was it? And of course, I would grab it like a jackmore. This one. It flew off and it binged me in the forehead. It scared the living daylights out of me. And she's got earrings. Look. Yes, the old one, the handmade one. So I don't even know why I even touched it. So, and it was up there perfectly where it shouldn't have fell. So last night, ladies and gentlemen, I was actually, we had the cat balls out. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And when I was putting the cat balls up, Hollywood squares, let's switch them. When the cat balls were turned off, I'm like, I didn't turn the cat balls off. It didn't turn it off of itself. No wonder it didn't activate. It was the one was sitting right here. Yes. I was like, whew. Brian, I'm not going anywhere except crazy. I know that feeling. I really do. Crazy witch. I can see what's happening to Grizz and him going wild through holy water everywhere. I mean, do I not go through holy water? Yes, I do. Somebody even asked me, do I put it in my windshield wiper washer fluid? I do. You never know when you're going to get a demon hitting your windshield when you're doing 120 mile an hour down the expressway. So I got to get rid of it. Yes. Topsy-turvy doll. It's still creepy as ever. That happens to us all a lot. Yeah. So so what do y'all think about my backdrop that somebody helped get me to make? Do you like that? Somebody felt sorry because I kept using photography, what you call it, backdrop. See, I got my little light, so it can help me out a little bit. But they felt sorry for me because I kept using these photography backdrops. They're like, hey, get a green screen. You can do this and that. Well, lo and behold, that's what I was doing all day, making graphics. Yes. And I love it. I made videos. And we got somebody making a paranormal video for me, too. It's going to be a little commercial. It's going to be interesting. And I still got a bunch of stuff open up my computer. So we're going to slowly inch our way out of everything out of here so I don't burn up my CPUs and everything. Everybody's messaging me right now. Hopefully nothing's on fire. So I totally love your show, brother. I do too. Thank you, Brian. It means a lot to me. Crazy Witch, 100%. Standing Stones, 100%. Is that a green screen? Yes, I actually do. You can see it behind me, part of the green screen. I got multiple angles, multiple views because I'm sexy. But anyways, yes, I finally got a green screen. I still like my backdrops, but the one I've got behind me is artificial. It was man-made with graphics and everything. Hey, Mick, the judge's lodge episode, the Spirit John was a little boy. Really? Hey, Mick, the judge's last episode, the Spirit John was a little boy. Ego, when to talk about the little boys. Yes. You got to be careful because the demons, the evil will come to you as children. So, and Kelly's like, hey, Brian, how you doing? I can't wait to get my shirt, Kelly, from your father. I'm really stoked about that. So, yes. So we are teaming up, and I'll click off my screen here. So we have been doing all kinds of neat things with technology, which I love. But yeah, so that's my new little back thing for my screen. But yeah, FDL Paranormal's live tomorrow. Love the team. Absolutely. Yeah, I love them too, man. Love them to death. We were doing a show the other night, and Michael was like, "You ain't gonna believe this, man." And his wife's like, "What?" He was like, "I gotta show you." And I'm like, "What's going on?" He was like, "Hold on." And I'm like, "Uh-oh." And she's like, her eyes are like big and everything. And he turns off his lights and he turns the camera around. And his shed door is open with the light on. And I'm like, "No way." And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like one of those ones doing the commercials. If you got a haunted item, send it to us. We'll test it out. We'll keep it for a week. We will make sure and see what it does. We will put it through a series of tests and we'll mail it back to you. And his wife's like, "No, we won't." He's like, "Oh, yes, we will." I'm like, "You're crazy." I mean, all you need to do is get somebody with a voodoo doll or something. So, yes, I ordered my Dogman long sleeve from Grizzly shop online. Thank you, Standing Stone. Much love. Now, believe it or not, that every little penny helps. It goes towards computer software. It goes towards anything, towards the shows. I greatly appreciate that. There's not a very big markup on that. I can't believe how expensive things are, but much love. Thank you. And Nicole, welcome, Nicole. How are you doing? Raven Creek, I'll be late. Just never call me late for dinner. It's the only thing I ever ask. So I don't know what I ate tonight, but it was really good. As long as it's not moving or bleeding, I'm okay. Standing Stones, I'm glad Grizz is emanated tonight because today was a cluster F dealing with pharmacy insurance screwed up. I got a bill for $775. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, I've been throwing a whole lot of holy water. FDL, hey, Samantha, that location was awesome. It's so interesting. Nicole, hey, Crazy, hope you're doing good as well. Hey, Raven, Aussie Sue says. Nicole, Standing Stones. No haunted objects in my house. He can keep them in the shed. See, aha. Now, I can tell you beyond a reasonable doubt the totality of the circumstances that Michael is not going to keep him in that shed that he demonstrated to us the other night is not going to happen. Now, I can already foresee that in a scene in fortune telling you that he's actually going to keep him underneath the bed in a shoebox. And he's also going to buy a Tupperware tub that's going to slide underneath there. So when you start having nightmares in bed, whatever, Moji Jobies, I'm just telling you, be prepared because Michael's already actually thought where he's going to hide these things. So, Michael, I'm sorry for calling you out. And he's shaking his head to his wife right now. He's like, "No, I'm not." Yes, you have, Michael. You already thought about it. So, Crazy Witch. Hey, Raven Creek. Hey, Miss Aussie. Nicole, we're not in the ditch right now, but we're doing great. That's awesome. I'm glad everybody's doing well. We had no idea that our guest was in the hospital. Standing Stones. Hello, Nicole. Nicole, yeah, doing good. So, FDL and everybody, we're going to be doing some shows together. And because Tracy and his timeline is not going to be able to work out, but with UOK's time, their night is my day and my day is their night. So we can do things during the day while they're at night. So we can do extra shows, which is going to be lovely. And then we got Mr. Derek Green stepping up to the platter. Batter, swing on Friday. He's coming on to the show. I'm buzzing for Friday and can't wait for an empath me and Brian Whelan to the live with FDL Paranormal. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to take the legs off the bed. No comment. So he's going to find, I'm telling you, that's where he's going to put them. Ask him. He's shaking his head no, but he's already thought about where he's going to put them. He ain't going to put them in the closet. He's going to put them underneath the bed in Tupperware. He's already thought about it. Michael, tell me if I'm wrong or am I right. Samantha shaking my head. Don't do that, Mick. So I tell you. So we're going to be doing some shows about some haunted vessels and haunted dolls. I did not get any cat balls out, which I guess I can get a couple out. It was interesting the other night that they turned off one of my cat balls on one of my shows. They literally, well, they turned it off. So yeah, I was like, what in the world? So now to turn off these cat balls, ladies and gentlemen, if you never play with one of these cat balls, now I do not have a sack full like Michael does with FDL Paranormal, but there's a little button on these things. See that little red nipple right there? You got to hit that, and that turns them on and activates it. So it actually turned it off. When it actually hit it, it turned it off. And when I picked it up, it didn't go off. I was like, what in the world? So FDL Paranormal, thanks, Kelly. We're looking forward to it. Are you looking forward to the haunted objects? Or are you looking forward to the bed with no legs? That's my question. So now she's chuckling. So have you never had a bed shake, rattle, and roll for no reason? Yeah, that is freaky, I'm telling you. Now, when I was growing up in the hotel rooms, they had those little machines that you put 10 cents on it or in it, and it vibrated the bread and all that, and it shook. Ladies and gentlemen, this didn't have no machine to it. So some turned on too. Yeah, that is correct. So absolutely. Raven Standing Stone says, I can't find my arrow. There we go. Charles Rudd. Charles, how have you been? Some turned on too. Now, I knew some people that claimed that they would unplug it and it would still activate itself. Now, in that case, I would vacate out of that hotel room. Now, this is a true story. Now, when I got out in law enforcement and I got into the civilian world, I had to travel a lot to do some of the things I did. Magic Fingers bed, yes. And I was in this hotel room, Raven Creek, legs off the bed. It reminds me of the first home I ran in, fully furnished trailer. We hit the floor and the legs fell right off in the bed and we were sleeping. Oh, I got a bad TMI picture moment there. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen. Woo, I know. And that's what I said, Nicole. I was like, woo. Anyways. So I was real tired. I got in the hotel room and I unpacked everything. When I unpack, I hang everything up. You know, I put everything into the dresser and all that other stuff. I know, Nicole, crazy witch. I had to stop, and I had, yes. Anyways, I know, right? They set me up, ladies and gentlemen. They set me up. But anyways. And I was standing, and it was two queen beds, and it was a suite. It had an office, and it had a desk, and it had a liquor bar or a wet bar, and it had a sink and everything. And the truth, we were sleeping. Okay, that's what they all say. It's how many beers did you have to drink tonight? Only one. Yeah, what was it? This big? You know. Yeah. But anyways. Yeah, too early for the ditch. Ain't that right, Nicole? So something told me to look down, and I saw this fuzzy thing run in underneath the door. Now, this fuzzy thing looked like it was distorted, but it was weird. It was about this big and about, I don't know, about that wide. And it looked like, I don't know what to describe it. It looked like a wet cat. And, you know, it was just like fuzzy. And I stood there for a minute and I'm like, there ain't no way in heck what I just saw. So I called the front desk. And I'm like, hello, this is Grizzly. I just got set up in my room. They're like, yes, Mr. Grizzly, what can we do for you? Would you like some fresh chocolate chip cookies? And I'm like, do you think that 12:30 at night I'm calling to get some fresh chocolate chip cookies at the front desk? I was like, no. I was like, I just saw something that came underneath my door. They're like, oh, it's no problem. They see things down there in that room from time to time. We don't know what it is, but it's not a rat. And I'm like, well, what do you mean it's not a rat? I know it wasn't a rat. And they're like, well, we don't know what it is. And I'm like, well, it ran behind the dresser. And she's like, well, what would you like us to do? And I'm like, well, I looked behind the dresser and it wasn't there. And she's like, well, would you like to move rooms? And I'm like, well, I think I would like to move rooms because whatever ran underneath the door, which is something was like very thin like this, okay, which a rat cannot do. Now, a rat can get through small places. Now, whatever this item or dynamic or evil thing was, I have no idea, but it scared the living cajeebies out of me because it would, I mean, it looked like it was like fuzz, but it looked like a big caterpillar, but it was wide and it's just a long story, but they knew about it. So the guy came down and he was like, knocked on my door. And I'm like, what are you here for? He's like, well, I'm here to help you move. I'm like, okay, well, grab all my clothes out of the closet and I'll grab the stuff out of the dresser and everything. He said, did you see it? I'm like, did I see what? He said, did you see what came underneath the door? And I'm like, well, yeah, I saw what came underneath the door. Why do you think I'm moving rooms? He's like, man, he said, we had priests to come in here and bless this room. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm like, did somebody whack themselves in this room? And he just sat back and he was like, and what else did you say did you need? Did you have any toiletries in the bathroom, sir? Did you like to get also? I'm like, I'll grab what I need out of the restroom. Thank you. So I could not go back to bed for the rest of the night. They moved me to a totally different floor. I had nightmares. I don't know what it was, but it was not good. And no, it wasn't a big, warm, fuzzy caterpillar either. So yes, that is wild, Grizzly. It was. So it was freaky. So I'm going to tell you something. If I had holy water that night, it would have been everywhere. So I'm the type that I would take black lights. Do not take a black light, a UV light to a hotel room. That will freak you out, ladies and gentlemen. You will not sleep in the beds or walk along the floors barefoot. Yes, with your socks. You'll be wearing your pool slippers. So I learned that being on the PD. And if you don't know what a UV light is and what a UV light does, and you don't need those actual UV goggles either to see certain things. This was for all the bed mites and bed bugs and all that stuff came out. It was real freaky and eerie and stuff. Then people want to know why that, you know, everybody wanted to, hey, you got a free mattress, you want it? Oh, hell no, I don't want a free mattress. So yeah, we are doing a show on haunted vessels. So it's going to be really interesting. So people do not believe in that. And when people do pass, they do fall in love with certain objects. Whether it may be a mug, it may be jewelry. Now, somebody said doorknobs. Now, the last house I owned, it was an old farmhouse. And when we sold it, when we moved out of, somebody moved into it and they stole all the doorknobs out of it because it was made out of glass, crystals. So, but anyways, it's just amazing. Never a dull moment. So I'm surprised the cat ball has not come on. Okay, so I want to make sure it was still turned on. So it's activated. But yes. So what's going on? You all, if you not stay, you shine UV with you better believe it. If you not stay, you shine UV light in a hotel, motel, or condo, you better believe that too, Raven Creek and Brian. Yes. The stuff, if you only knew. And yes, I totally do believe that. So absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, another edition of Paranormal Plus with Grizzly, and Tracy has the night off. And Hockett is in the MRI machine right now getting checked out and validated. This edition is brought to you by Western Kentucky Bigfoot, Western Bigfoot Paranormal Investigations, LLC. I cannot even say it right. I'm so nervous. Thank you, Mr. Don. Greatly appreciated. So, Brian, yes, the haunted vessels with spirits attachments, they are real. I've seen that. Yes, I actually got it during the video. The cat ball was going off. So just let you know, yes, the cat ball was going off. I did not touch it. So it's like, you know, it never fails. It never happens when you're on cue, right? It's always when you're off cue, something happens. And, you know, and people, when they ghost hunt or ghost investigate or whatnot, that's the way things usually happens, is that it never happens on cue. So, and please don't forget, I'm typing it out now, do not forget your shirts and merch. Support the show and Grizzly. So, but Brian, I knew that you can like kind of love that kind of stuff. So yes, make sure, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to support Grizzly in the show. Each part of that proceeds does go towards membership fees and graphics and other stuff to progress the shows and to do things. Greatly appreciated everybody's support. That means a lot. It really does. I could not have a show without you guys. So yes, absolutely. But paranormal, you know, it's amazing that the cat ball is going off. The cat ball is going off, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. It never fails. So it's amazing that how people that actually does not or do not believe in the paranormal. And I don't understand, you know, it's because they are, I don't know what to say, never had any experiences or anything. But it's really weird is the cat ball still going off and it's not shutting off. So I'm trying to ignore it, but it's not working. I'm starting to get nervous and it just keeps flashing and flashing. So it's really interesting. There it goes. But nightmare, and it's going off again. So people want to know, why do they have paranormal nightmares? Well, there's a lot of things why people say they have nightmares is because of things that come back and either visit them or whatnot. And yes, I'm watching the cat ball. It's still going off, ladies and gentlemen. But there are things that come and pays us visits, whether it's family members or people that come back, whether it's the tall hat man or shadow people and so forth. But why do we have nightmares? You know, is it something that we ate? Is it something that we watched on TV? Why do we have nightmares? Brian, would you like to answer that? I always like to ask people questions like that. Why do we have nightmares? Some people say it's because, you know, it's a sleep disorder. Some people say is that, you know, it's our brains not able to sleep. Hello, Shay Lee. Welcome back. Ordered my merch last week. Yes, Raven Creek. Thank you. Crazy Witch. What's up? The magic of the crystal, the ball. There goes the ball. There goes the ball. But why do we have nightmares? Why do we? You know, there's all kinds of reasons why we do have nightmares, and it's interesting that why people come up with the reasons why we do. Some of them are scientific. Some of them believe is because we trigger them ourselves. Nightmares and sleep terrors. What are those? You know, now sleep terrors is something that I have, and it's still going off, that I've experienced before, which is kind of scary. And if you never had one of those before, stand by here And let me share this little video real quick as this ball keeps going off and keeps grabbing my attention for some reason. You know, there's a lot of reasons. Standing stones raving to me. I don't know. I've been having crazy dream nightmares lately in the cold, but under a ton of stress. That could be attributed to, yes, Sean. Standing stones. I have long sleeve sage green shirt with Dogman logo. All right, that's a nice one. My cat ball is still going off. I got 2 T's and a school hoodie. All right, rock on, Raven Creek. That's what I'm talking about. Crazy witch. I say there's multiple different explanations and the reasons for nightmares. I do agree. Shay Lee, thank you. I got a star. Don't you know that you are a shooting star? Don't you know? Pay attention to the cat ball. Yes, I am. I'm trying to ignore it, crazy witch. It's not turning off. Think it's the cat ball. I have no idea. But it's interesting because people have their own views on why we actually have nightmares and night tremors and terrors and so forth. So very interesting it is. And I don't know if I did this right.
Nightmare disorder, and sleep or night
But
terrors.
evidently
So
I
in this
did
lesson, we're going
not.
to talk about the differences between nightmares and sleep
So
terrors.
let
We'll
me
also talk about some of the
stop
specific
sharing and present, share screen. Let's see here. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll start it over again. So this
Hi
way y'all
everyone,
can
this
hear
lesson
it.
is on nightmares, nightmare disorder, and sleep or night terrors.
And of course, I hit the end button instead of the big button. So let's replay it
In this
and
lesson,
make
we're going
it
to talk
bigger.
about the differences between nightmares and sleep terrors. We'll also talk about some of the specific signs and symptoms that occur with each of them, and we'll talk about how these conditions are diagnosed and how they are treated. So both nightmare disorder and sleep or night terrors are parasomnia disorders involving
Very interesting. Now we're going to start to have problems with video, I guess. Interesting. See if it's going to play. If not, we'll skip it. There's many different reasons why we actually do.
imagery during sleep. They are considered to be sleep-wake disorders. So we're going to talk about these two conditions, and then we'll talk about some of the differences here. So let's first talk about the pathophysiological differences between the two, which will help us distinguish these two types of conditions. So nightmares are going to be different than sleep terrors because they occur during rapid eye movement sleep, or REM sleep. This is the dreaming type of sleep. This is where the body becomes essentially paralyzed, where the patient loses muscle control and their eyes move rapidly. So
It's going to start buffering. If it does
this
it
is
again,
the
we'll
dreaming
terminate it.
stage of sleep. And the reason that nightmares may occur may be due to immaturity of neural circuits. So this can be something that is in common with other parasomnia disorders. And this is why we can see this more commonly in children, as we will talk about later on in this lesson. However, some cases may be related to underlying neuroanatomical abnormalities, so certain degenerative conditions. Again, this can all play in with certain issues in neural circuitry. And then if we look at sleep terrors are going to occur during non-rapid eye movement sleep, or NREM sleep. This is going to be during deep sleep. And sleep terrors may be due to disruption of delta or slow wave sleep stages, which are going to be stages 3 and 4, and or serotonergic dysregulation. And the reason that serotonergic dysregulation may play a role here is because there is some evidence that taking SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, can actually reduce sleep terrors. So there may be some issue with serotonergic functioning. And there are a wide variety of factors that can trigger or increase the likelihood of having sleep terrors, and these can include genetic predisposition, stress, sleep deprivation or dysregulation, noise, fever, medications, and some other factors as well. So again, nightmares occur during rapid eye movement sleep, and sleep terrors occur during non-rapid eye movement sleep. And this is going to help us distinguish between some of the signs and symptoms we will talk about later on in this lesson. Now let's talk about the epidemiology of nightmare disorder and sleep terrors. So nightmare disorder is estimated to affect approximately 6% of the population. It's common in young boys, particularly between the ages of 4 to 7 years old. And nightmares themselves are very common, and it's estimated that 3/4 of children have had at least one nightmare. As mentioned before, there may be some association with nightmares and neurodegenerative conditions because we see frequency of nightmares increasing with certain neurodegenerative conditions. Some of these neurodegenerative conditions include frontotemporal dementia and Lewy body dementia. Again, this comes back to some of the possibility of certain issues with neural circuitry that may be playing a role in nightmares and nightmare disorder. And there's a higher frequency of nightmares and nightmare disorder in patients or individuals with reduced levels of well-being. These include patients with insomnia, certain significant life stresses, anxiety disorder, depression, separation anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. Now, let's talk about sleep terrors. Sleep terrors are estimated to affect approximately 3% of the general population. It's more likely to occur in young children, and the onset of sleep terrors is often between the ages of 4 to 12. It may occur more frequently in adolescents who suffer from migraines. So adolescents who suffer from migraines are more likely to have sleep terrors. So this is an interesting association to make note of here. And there is a higher risk of sleep terrors if there are other affected family members. So there are certain gene alleles that have been found to be associated with more sleep terrors, and these include human leukocyte antigen or HLA-DQB105 or HLA-DQB104 alleles. So having either of these alleles increases the risk that you will have sleep terrors. So this plays a role in what we talked about in the last slide, where there is a genetic predisposition to having sleep terrors. It can be related to other quality of life issues, including stresses. So I also want to highlight that here as well.
Do you know you should create a podcast, but you're not sure how to monetize it? A lot of people think you need fancy equipment or a full-time team or need to know the president of an online.
Let's talk about some of the signs and symptoms of both nightmare disorder and sleep terrors. And we're going to compare each of them to see the similarities and differences between these two conditions. So again, as mentioned before, nightmare disorder occurs in REM sleep, and it's more likely to occur in the second half of a major sleep episode. So if we look at the sleep stages, a patient will go into stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and they will go from 4 into 3 to REM. And as the night goes on, the longer they've been sleeping, each cycle will have a bigger period of REM sleep. This is the reason why we can see nightmares occurring more frequently in the second half of the major sleep episode. Having said that, it can occur at any point during the night. And with regards to nightmares, they're going to be vivid and have a story-like feature to them. Because they occur in REM sleep, they're going to be a dream. But they're going to be very dysphoric, meaning that they're going to be very troubling and disturbing to the patient. So the patient can be very afraid when they awaken. And there may be some other negative emotions, including anger, disgust, and sadness that may occur as well with nightmares. With regards to sleep terrors, as I mentioned before, they occur in NREM sleep. So this is going to be slow wave sleep or deep sleep. So again, we can see here that we go into stage 1, 2, 3, 4. So stage 3 and 4 are going to be slow wave sleep or that deep sleep. So this is where we're going to see sleep terrors occurring. And as we can see later on in the night, more of the sleep stages will become dominated by REM sleep and less of slow wave sleep will take place later on in the sleep episode. So that is going to be the reason why we can see sleep terrors more likely occurring in the first third of the night, usually the first 90 minutes of sleep. So there's going to be a partial awakening from slow wave sleep. So it's not going to be the same type of awakening we see with nightmares. It's going to be partial awakening. We'll talk about this in more detail here in a moment. So sleep terrors are going to be simple, vague, and frightening images. They're not going to have that story-like feature that we see with nightmares. And the patient is often not going to remember a coherent dream. They're going to have what we would call amnesia for the sleep terror. So often they will awaken from this episode. They may be very disoriented, and they may not remember what they've seen, but they know there has been some frightening images, and they will not have that story-like feature that we see with nightmares. So getting into more detail with regards to nightmare disorder and sleep terrors, Nightmare disorder, again, may or may not abruptly awaken a patient. So a patient may have a nightmare and then they may continue to sleep going through their regular sleep stages and may not even remember the nightmare or remember parts of it later on when they awaken. If they do awaken from the nightmare, it may be difficult getting back to sleep. They may be so troubled from the nightmare and the story that they've seen in the nightmare that they may have difficulty getting back to sleep. And nightmares can be associated with signs and symptoms of autonomic arousal, including sweating and shortness of breath. You can imagine if you're having a very scary experience, you can have sweating and shortness of breath because often, as we will see, patients in nightmares will be running or trying to get away from something. And nightmare disorder is associated with restless leg syndrome as well. In contrast to nightmares, sleep terrors have an abrupt or partial awakening. So it's abrupt because often the child who is experiencing the sleep terrors will immediately sit up and be awakened, but they're not quite awake. They don't know what is happening. They're disoriented. So there is partial awakening, and they're often able to go back to sleep. They can have panicking and autonomic arousal. So they can have tachycardia, tachypnea, and sweating. So tachycardia is going to be an increased heart rate, and tachypnea is going to be increased breathing rate. And it can resolve quite quickly. So they can have this very increased arousal. They can awaken, they can sit up quickly, but then they can calm down and go back to sleep. Screaming and crying is going to be common with sleep terrors. When they sit up quickly, they can start to scream and cry. So again, it's going to be often a child who may abruptly sit up, scream, but not be able to describe what has happened. They may just have this feeling of a very vague, scary situation or event. In adults, it's not going to occur as screaming or crying. It's often going to occur as agitation. So this can be something distinguishing adults with sleep terrors as opposed to children with sleep terrors. So those are some major distinguishing features between nightmares and sleep terrors. Because sleep terrors are often going to be vague imagery, it's difficult to talk about what is experienced in sleep terrors, but we will talk about what is mostly experienced in nightmares. And we're going to break down the different types of nightmares and what nightmares are most common in patients. So nightmares are often going to be broken down into post-traumatic nightmares and idiopathic nightmares. And as its name suggests, post-traumatic nightmares occur after a patient has had some trauma in their real life. So the nightmare itself, a post-traumatic nightmare, is going to replicate some of or all of the past traumatic event in some way. So there's going to either be a replication of that event or some elements of that past traumatic event. And with regards to idiopathic nightmares, they're not related to any prior traumatic event, and they're often going to be very imaginative because it's going to be some elaborate story that's very disturbing to the patient. It's not going to be rooted in some real life event or situation. So when we actually look at some of the response of a patient who has a post-traumatic nightmare and an idiopathic nightmare, patients who have post-traumatic nightmares are going to have increased arousal, increased nocturnal awakenings, and feelings of helplessness. So it'll seem that they cannot get away from that past traumatic event. They will have increased sweating, shortness of breath, increased heart rate. They'll have a stronger response to the nightmare. And they can often have increased nocturnal awakenings. They can have more of the issues that surround nightmares. And because they keep experiencing that trauma over and over again, they can have feelings of helplessness as well. So now let's talk about some of the common nightmares or the common themes that occur in nightmares. So nightmares are often going to be related to survival, physical safety, and physical integrity. So the most common type of nightmare is going to be a nightmare involving being chased or pursued. This is going to be the most common nightmare theme we see in patients. So this is going to be the most common nightmare theme, and the rest of them are not going to be in any particular order, but they are going to be very common nightmare themes. So another theme that can be seen in nightmares that's going to be common is a nightmare involving being physically attacked. Another common one is going to be a nightmare involving death and or disease. Other nightmares that are very common include phobia-related nightmares. So things like snakes. Animals and creatures can populate nightmares of children. So this can be something we can see different in adults and children. And then another type of nightmare that can be common is loss of control. And as I alluded to just a moment ago, the specific content of the nightmare is going to ultimately depend on the patient's age. So nightmares in adults are going to differ from nightmares in children. So as I just mentioned, children can often have nightmares involving animals or imaginary creatures.
I tried 3 different e-commerce platforms and none of them were working for me. And
Now let's talk about how these disorders are diagnosed. We'll first talk about nightmare disorder. So nightmare disorder is going to be a clinical diagnosis using oftentimes DSM-5 criteria. So nightmare disorder, according to the DSM-5 criteria, involves the following, and some of this is adapted from the DSM-5. Recurrent episodes of nightmare. So nightmares are going to be dreams that are long in duration, well remembered, troubling, so they're going to be dysphoric and involve something to do with safety, security, or threat to survival. So that's what a nightmare is. And it's often going to occur in the second half of a major sleep episode. The second important criteria with regards to nightmare disorder, according to DSM-5, is that episodes cause clinically significant impairment or distress in social or occupational domains. This is always going to be an important aspect of any disorder, because if a patient is having these episodes and it's not really affecting anything in their life, it's hard to say that this is a disorder. When they have these recurrent episodes of nightmares that are causing some impairment or distress in their social or occupational domains, perhaps they're losing some of their relationships or they have lost their job because of it, this criteria is going to be considered to be met. Another criteria of a nightmare that is required for nightmare disorder is that the patient will awaken from a nightmare and is quickly oriented and alert. And this is going to differ from sleep terrors because when a patient awakens from sleep terrors, they are disoriented. An important aspect of diagnosing nightmare disorder is that it's not caused by another psychiatric or medical disorder. And the nightmares are not attributable to physiological effects of a drug or medication. We can then break down nightmares according to how long a patient has been suffering from them. We can break it down into acute, subacute, and persistent. So acute nightmare disorder is when nightmares have been occurring for less than 1 month in duration. Subacute nightmare disorder is when nightmares have been occurring for 1 to 6 months in duration. And then persistent nightmare disorder is going to be when nightmares have been occurring for greater than 6 months in duration. And we can break nightmare disorder down even further into different intensities. So there's mild, moderate, and severe nightmare disorder. Mild nightmare disorder is going to be when there's less than 1 episode per week. Moderate is when there's going to be multiple episodes of nightmare per week. And severe nightmare disorder is when there's going to be an episode of a nightmare every night. So those are the differences in severity. Let's talk about the diagnosis of sleep terrors. So sleep terrors are often going to be clinically diagnosed with the following criteria from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, or AASM. There is DSM-5 criteria for sleep terrors as well, and they are very similar to what we're going to talk about here. So if you want to look up those criteria, you can look those up as well. So according to the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, night terrors or sleep terrors involve the following. The first criteria is going to be partial or incomplete awakening episode that occurs repeatedly. So they can often awaken, but they're not quite awake. They're disoriented and they can go back to sleep. Episodes involve abrupt terror and screaming or vocalization. The patient does not respond or has an inadequate response to intervention or redirection. So if you were to try to calm the child down, they often are not calmed down when they are experiencing this episode. So they'll sit up, scream. You try to calm them down, but it doesn't really work. They don't really respond. Another important criteria of night or sleep terrors is that there is no or limited dream imagery. So there's very limited imagery of the episode, and they do not remember the images, or they have partial remembering, so they can remember a little bit, but often it can be complete amnesia. So there can be partial or complete amnesia for the images they have experienced. Again, they're going to be simple, vague, frightening images that they see. It's not going to be a story like we see with nightmares. During the episode, there is severe fear response with signs and symptoms of autonomic arousal like tachycardia, tachypnea, diaphoresis, which is sweating, in mydriasis. So mydriasis would be a widening of the pupils or dilation of the pupils. And as with other diagnostic criteria, it's important to exclude other causes that may be leading to these night terrors or sleep terrors, including mental disorders, sleep conditions, and medications. Let's talk about the treatment of both nightmare disorder and sleep terrors. So with regards to nightmare disorder, it's important that the patient is reassured because this is often going to be a self-limiting condition. So again, most of the time it's going to occur in young children, and as they grow up, it's going to resolve on its own. So having nightmares can actually be considered to be developmentally normal in young children because we can see that their neural circuitry is immature and it takes some time for that neural circuitry to develop. And we can see often a outgrowing or resolution of nightmares as the child gets older. So if nightmares occur in young children, most of them will outgrow these nightmares, but we can see nightmares still occurring in adults as well, especially if there are particular stressors, and that can be important because they may require counseling services. So if there are significant stressors, or if patient has PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, that is causing post-traumatic nightmares, counseling services can be important for those patients. Other measures can also be utilized as well, including avoiding screen time 2 hours prior to bedtime. This can help reduce nightmares from occurring. Dream content discussion can help. So this would be image rehearsal therapy. Others are going to be stress management, helping with reducing insomnia and helping to treat PTSD in patients who have PTSD. And then hypnosis can also be used in some other cases. And with regards to the treatment of sleep terrors, again, these are often going to be benign and self-limiting as well. So in young children who have sleep terrors, they may spontaneously resolve at puberty. So this is an interesting fact to make note of. However, it's also important to monitor, support, and reassure and educate the parents. So a lot of times parents can be very worried and concerned about sleep terrors, as a child can quickly sit up and start screaming and yelling. This can be very distressing for the parents. So it can be important to educate them, to let them understand what sleep terrors are and that often they are going to be benign and self-limiting. If there are any other factors that can be increasing the likelihood of having sleep terrors, like insomnia, other stressors in life, it's important to treat those issues and comorbidities as well. And then there are other measures that can be employed to help reduce sleep terrors, including scheduled awakenings. So breaking up the sleep cycle can help reduce some sleep terrors from occurring. Protection during sleep, if they are waking up quickly or thrashing around, can be important to protect the affected patient from hurting themselves. Regular sleep habits can also reduce the likelihood of sleep terrors. And in some cases, there may be requirement for assessment of abuse. And this can be in both cases of nightmare disorder and sleep terrors in young children particularly. So if you want to learn more about other sleep conditions, please check out my videos on those topics. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe for more lessons like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.
Come here, check this out. Check this out, check this out. This right here, this cannot be faked, right?
So it's pretty interesting to hear how they always refer everything back to children. And that was one of the things that caught my attention, is that not only children are affected, I mean, play Hollywood Squares here, is that it also affects adults. Now, there are differences between night terrors and dreams and so forth. Now, we can manifest things ourselves. We can, certain things we eat, certain things we want, screen times, like they say. But it's interesting because when you talk to people with abilities, and this is where Hockett could come and play, or Brian, which is, he had to go. Most of my people with abilities, or psychics or mediums or clairvoyants or whatnot, they will tell you that there is a book out there, and I think Nicole or somebody said it, that will actually describe what your dreams are and give you definitions on what is referencing why you are having certain dreams, as a chart or a reference guide. But also, some of the people with abilities claim that you should always have a pen and paper, correction, a number 2 pencil, because it's related to Earth, Mother Nature, and a pad of paper to write down your dreams as soon as you wake up, because sometimes it is a message from loved ones from the other side that come and pays you a visit, or it's something that you have to break the cycle of to get out of, whether it's something that you have to overcome fear-wise, or it could be something that is going to happen in the future that is trying to pre-warn you. So there are many different types of definitions, people's theories, scientific views on why people have night terrors, and so forth. Kids, yes, there are a lot of them are induced because of certain things they can see off TV. There are a lot of things that you can induce because of the violence at home, whether it's domestic violence or physical violence or verbal abuse between family members or whatnot. So there are many contributing factors to children to have nightmares and tremors. But if you look at the totality, which in law enforcement means everything as a whole, which a lot of doctors do not, and a lot of scientists do not, they leave out the paranormal realm or paranormal reality out of things, right? I know somebody, I don't know if it was Standing Stones or somebody said that, they had a person with a top hat that would come pay them a visit in the middle of the night with the legs crossed and so forth. Shadow people coming in and out of the room. Now, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, some of it can be debunked because the way the vehicle came up and down the road and cast a shadow in the room, and the headlights of a vehicle can hit an object in the room and cast a shadow, looks like a human being, cause them pareidolia. So, yeah, so we can look at many things many different ways and fashions and labels and however you want to put it, that's fine. But when we look at the supernatural realm of things, this is where it starts to get outside the scientific realm, where they're not able to explain things, okay? Now, is there life after death? Yes, I do believe there is. Now, some people say, no, there is not. Once we die, that's it. Some people believe in reincarnation. We all are made up of energy. Energy does not die. Energy does it disperse? Does it go out to the atmosphere and just dissipate? No, I don't think it does. I think that's why we have a lot of activity, whether it's residual, like a record player that plays over and over. We can see this on a lot of ghost investigations, to where a home has been remodeled and they will see an apparition that will walk through a hallway and then walk into a wall. And you're like, well, there is not a door there. Well, 70 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, there was a doorway there. So that's why we call it a residual haunting. So now we know that there are things. Samantha, you have teeth like stars that come out at night. Oh, Samantha, you got pretty teeth too? I love pretty teeth. But there are things that come out that are good and evil that children can see because they are pure at heart. They are not tainted by evil. They are, pure when they're born, so they are able to see things that adults are not able to see. And it's interesting when they brought up monsters and snakes and stuff like that. So when we hear things like monsters and snakes, and the first thing that we think of is something that's evil, malevolent, demonic, and so forth, right? Is that a possibility? Yes, that is. Now, when I was growing up, my brother saw angels. My parents thought he was going to die. They didn't know what was going to happen. They took him to several doctors. And it was very interesting because they didn't know what was wrong. And he was seeing all these things. And he was like, it's okay, Mom and Dad. I'm going to go with the angels and everything's going to be fine. And it's just like it freaked him out. So can they see things that we cannot? Absolutely. I think the same thing when it comes to pets and animals. I think animals can see things, whether it's your routine house cat or dogs, or animals upon the land that know things, whether it's earthquakes, tsunamis, birds, whatever. They can sense things before things happen. So there are many beliefs. Can it be scientifically proven? No. Is it a hypothesis? Yes. Is it a theory? Absolutely. Now, have we all been sitting around with one of our loved animals or love cats or dogs, or been over at somebody's house and you're just sitting there and you're like, what in the world is their cat looking at, just up in the corner, or that over there, and that just staring there? Or why is that dog going to the corner wagging its tail, just sitting there and just being all happy? What are they seeing that we are not seeing? So, yes, there are many factors that I think that we as human beings are not realizing what is transpiring in front of us. Plus, we're not able to see. I hate to throw this out, maybe in other dimensions, other realms and realities. I do not know because I'm alive, I'm flesh and blood. So, if I ever have the chance to pass on, hopefully I can come back and everybody that ever talk to or investigates, the afterlife or ghost hunts. Hopefully I can give you some hints and tell you what I know. But, Charles Rude, I had a near-death experience. I can tell you that there is life after death. Yes. Now, with that being said, Charles, are you a psychic, a medium? Do you have abilities now? Are you an empath? Can you do certain things that you never was able to do before? Are you sensitive? Because a lot of times when somebody has a near-death experience, they have a part of their mind that's open up. How that happens, I do not know. I do not know if the higher power to be comes down and says, Charles, now I'm going to give you a gift. And now you're going to be able to do blah, 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 blah. I have no idea how that works. I have studied psychics for quite some time, people with abilities, different types of abilities, the people that can remote view, telekinesis, all different types of stuff. See, Charles, you do have abilities. Now, with your abilities, Charles, did they come from near-death experience or did they come from hereditary? Did it come from your mother or from somebody that was passed down from your family tree? And that's my next question, because there's different ways people have abilities. So it's very interesting. And how you doing, Midwest Night Watchers? Welcome. So it's very interesting how stuff like that comes to be. It's always fascinating, right? And so when people find out things that doctors cannot explain, back in the day it was witchcraft. Back in the day you were evil. Back in the day you were a witch, medicine man or shamanist or whatever, you actually brought your powers back. So that's very interesting. I've always been fascinated with people that have the abilities. Some people don't ask for them. Some people try to develop them. Some people try to manifest the powers, which I believe you can with studying and also taking the time and learning. Are they as strong as somebody that has been born with them or maybe has a near-death experience? That I don't know. I never tested somebody from A to B to C to D, and because everybody's different, everybody's abilities on what they're capable of doing with their techniques or their styles are similar, but unique to everybody else's. So it's not like, an apple and orange to orange. So when we work on these missing people's cases or cold murder cases, that's why we have a group of people with abilities that have different techniques and so forth to dial in and see what information they can actually get off the picture or the date of birth and come back with the information to us to maybe help out local law enforcement or the family members that's actually missing the person or the loved one that we're trying to look for or to help solve. So it's very interesting. And Charles, yes, I had them for years. Absolutely. I know exactly what you're referring to. I am scared of mine. Some people bring them out of me. When I get very, very upset, I can really reach down inside of somebody and bring out stuff that I shouldn't know. And I've done that before, but it's neither here or there. But, there are people out there that can help train and teach you how to hone them in and how to turn them on and off. Some people, unfortunately, cannot turn them off and they don't know how to ground themselves properly. And that's not I don't want to say inaccurate to a certain degree, but it also is not knowing and having the right teacher or the right person to lead you down the path to show you the light and the techniques and so forth to teach you the ways, like a Jedi, I guess. But when it comes to psychology and so forth, I had a rough time taking that class, is because, dealing with the paranormal side of things, I always question a lot more things than the average person had or has, and always challenged my professor. And he was always like, Grizzly, take the class. I'm like, but what if? Grizzly, take the class. I'm like, but if the kid sees something, Grizzly, take the class. Just because somebody hears voices inside their head doesn't mean that they're mentally ill people. Now, do we have mentally ill people in America? Is mentally, illness an issue in society? Absolutely. That's why I do not practice medicine. I do not give readings on health or anything like that. It's because, you don't know. And there are a series of questions that, when people come to me about demonic spirits or demons, or they think they have attachments, I tread very lightly and carefully, because I don't want to try to help somebody that I may think that my personal opinion, may have an attachment, but may have a real serious mental illness issue, and turn around and I'm trying to help them with the techniques that I've been taught, right, and certified, and become a reverend, and turn around and the person commits suicide. I do not want that on my hands. No. So that's why we do have professionals out there, such as PhDs, medical doctors, psychiatrists, and so forth, to actually to help people. Now, there are techniques that we know that we can test to see if people are, or questions that we can ask that are non-invasive, or actually that are non-embarrassing, because sometimes it may be that, the person maybe just forgot to take medicine for a couple of days back to back, and they're having some episodes. Or maybe the medicine they're on, they're got immune to, and they may need a higher dose, or maybe they need to switch a different type of brand. So you have, and this is where the totality, ladies and gentlemen, of everything as a whole comes into play. You cannot just take a slice of that pie or cake or pizza, however you want to say, and say, this is what it is, and this is what I'm going to describe and put a symptom with it. I do not feel comfortable doing that. Now, doctors, that's why they have malpractice insurance, right? That's why doctors get sued. They do make mistakes. They're human. They do misdiagnose people. My grandmother was misdiagnosed for years when I was younger with her cancer, and they found it by accident when she passed out. And it was stage 4, and it was too late, and there's nothing they can do for her. Raven Creek, I turned to no one but Jesus. I fought my gifts for 20 plus years. He finally put me in my face and said, do you hear me now? I surrendered now, but I do as he gives it to me with no perceived anything. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nicole, my granddad, has Alzheimer's, but when he had the early signs of dementia, undiagnosed people thought he was a bit crazy, and they do. Now, I actually had an uncle, and it was really sad that he had dementia, but at the time is when child pedophilia was going around, or pedophiles, and he loved kids. And you got to remember, as an older gentleman, and when he would see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old in public, he'd go, hey, how you doing? And that would freak the parents out. Now, okay, and being a parent, I would probably freak out too. But not knowing the back history of things and how people deal with things today in society, this is what I'm talking about. We judge things by appearances. We take things that are out of textbooks And, you know, when I was growing up, ladies and gentlemen, when we went and saw a doctor, we went and saw a doctor. They knew actually how you were doing, and we spent time in the doctor's office. And now when you went and see a doctor or go see a doctor, it's, hey, how you doing? Okay, let's take your blood pressure. Let's take your temperature. All right, doctor will be right in. We'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, how you doing? Fine. All right. Are you just saying, or you need refills? Okay. And you're getting any blood work? All right, we'll see you back in 90 days. All right, take care. See you. Bye. And you're done in less than 10, 12 minutes. Times have changed. So yes, do the doctors actually know you? No. Now, do our doctors know our parents and grandparents? Yes, because they practiced for so long and been in the medical field. They do. They had a personal relationship with them. So when they would come in and something was out of the norm, then yes, they could say, Mr. Grizzly, you're not acting right today. What's going on? You seem a little off. Is everything okay at home? You have any depression kicking in? Is everything okay at work? Nobody cares about that anymore. It's here's some pills. Take some pills, make you feel good. See you. Hasta la vista, and we'll see you next time. Let me get your co-payment and insurance card on the way out. Or actually do that up front now before you're seeing, and you pay before you see the doctor. So yes. And I'm not trying to say, you know, anything bad about any practices or any doctors out there, but that's just the way the medical field has gotten to. And then we look at Medicaid and Medicare in the past 15 and 20 years and all the fraudulent claims and people making millions and billions of dollars off of false claims. I mean, it's taken a toll on society, and it's sad. So, you know, when I look at things, you know, I look at things totally different. I look at things also as a medical person, right? Which I'm not. But, you know, is there a medical condition of some sort that's causing this person to be this way? But also, are there other forces that could cause a person to be this way? Because of, hey, man, is everything okay at home? How's your girl and your wife doing? How's your kids doing? You know, how's your job doing? Yeah, you know, where is all that camaraderie anymore? There's not. You go to work, you come home, you eat, you go to bed, you go to sleep, you're on Facebook. You don't even hold each other much more in bed anymore. You're on social media, and next thing you know, you're on there, you can't go to sleep, and you're in this endless cycle, right? So we're losing touch to realities. I remember the PDAs too, right? Yeah, kind of cognitive thinking, and it is very sad, Nicole. It is. So it's just, I'm trying to put a different spin on things. Not everybody that wants to put a label on things is right, is what I'm trying to say. You know, just because, you know, people hear things or see things doesn't mean they're crazy. You know, there's a lot of kids with autism. You know, I'll never forget when we had to take classes in law enforcement for autism children, because, you know, we had to deal with them in a certain manner. You know, we couldn't go in a house that was on fire, or a husband and wife was fighting. Physical, I'm talking knockout, drag out, and grab a kid and be like, hey, you're coming with me. And they had autism, and because you couldn't do that. And we had to learn about, you know, children with disabilities and how to handle them and so forth. Then we had to learn about mass or hilarious delirium, or mass hilarious delirium, or something like that. Where the body gets real excited. Hilarious delirium. I can't even say the term now. I forgot what it's called. Where your body's so jacked up on whatever it is, your body's about to expire, but you're perspiring and everything else. Your organs are shutting down. And unfortunately, they get popped with a taser, and then they die. And next thing you know, it's law enforcement's fault. But there's a whole lot more in totality, right, that caused stuff that led up to that before. So there's a lot more things, ladies and gentlemen. I just want people to think about that. But, you know, try not to judge people. It's hard not to. You know, we always say never judge a book by its cover. But, you know, when you're in the wrong part of town, women, they grab their purse a little closer. I see people, when people walk by their cars, they lock their car doors. Ladies and gentlemen, that's why the cars these days do it themselves, because we're lazy. And this way we don't have to act like we're discriminating against somebody. That's why car manufacturers put that on there, so we don't have to worry about not feeling safe and keeping us inside that vehicle when we have a car wreck and so forth. But, you know, not trying to ramble on or anything, but hopefully I put a couple of spins on things for you and made you stop and think about a few things. But when it comes to nightmares and terrors, you know, do like the psychics told me and the people with abilities, keep a notepad by the bed and number 2 pencil. It has to be a number 2 because it's Mother Nature. And keep, yes, thank you, hyperactive delirium. That is correct, Raven Creek. That was very big towards the end of my law enforcement career. We would not even touch you unless EMS was there because we didn't know what was going to happen because they were flipping out, screaming. And if you all never seen a video of somebody like that, Google it. It will scare the living hell out of you. You think they were possessed by a demon or something. But, you know, stop and think about it. You know, it's sad. It really is. But there's always more to the picture than what people want to perceive it. And when it comes to the paranormal realm of stuff, you know, that's the last thing anybody ever wants to portray anything as. So hopefully you got a couple of, done by the police. Absolutely, Kelly. Hopefully you got a couple of good takeaways from the show tonight. I'm hopefully Hockett's doing okay with their MRI and Tracy's doing okay with his time off. I dreamt about Tasmania before it happened. All the people had died, but no one, I believe you. That happens a lot, Kelly. You'd be surprised how many people that said 9/11 was going to happen before it happened, and people made fun of them. People with abilities, I forgot what it's called. They actually do have psychic abilities where they can see things before things happen. And you're not alone. So hopefully y'all have a good one and take care and God bless everybody. And we'll talk to you soon. All right. Love y'all. Bye.
It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No, we're gonna watch and listen.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
No.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, should we run?
Okay. It's a grizzly.
Are you sure it's not a chipmunk?
Action.
No, I'm out of here.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
I'm out of here.
Huh. Maybe it is a chipmunk. It's a grizzly.
Oh, are we gonna die?
I don't know. We're just going to sit here and listen and watch.
Let's get out of here, maybe.
Fall!